Hi, this is Rob from Shape Your Future Online, and in today's Shape Your Mindset series, I'm going to talk about how we can look at isolating and dealing with our feelings to help us push through our fears and get on to doing those things that we need to get done. So let's get to this. Okay, so I'm really excited about this episode, so much so that it's quite early in the morning here. The house hasn't quite heated up yet, and I just want to get going. So hence the hat and the scarf. It is a little bit chilly down here in my office today, but let's crack on with this. So what I wanted to talk about today is in the past couple of episodes, I've talked about sort of trying to break through our fears, and very much from a mindset level, talking about sort of reframing our language to help us push through fears, to start taking action in the things that we want to get done when perhaps we can feel a little bit stuck, a little bit frozen. We can start procrastinating because we're scared of getting out of our comfort zone. But today, I wanted to talk a little bit more about our association of our thoughts with our actual feelings, and really how the subconscious is really getting in touch with the body first, really making us embrace some feelings which are then actually going on to drive our thoughts and our actions. So, if you look at the brain, this wonderful piece of equipment that we have here in our heads, it's having to deal with a heck of a lot of information all the time. There's somewhere in the region of around about 12 million pieces of information that our brain is having to deal with at any one moment. Yet it's only able to actually filter through something like about 12 bits of information at one time. So, 1 in a million pieces of information are actually, being digested, if you like, by the brain. And what the brain is really doing primarily, its number one function is to keep us alive. And so what it's doing is it's assessing fear. That's really what it's doing a lot of the time. And a lot of the time it's bringing up memories. I mean, our brains, our subconscious part of the brain really is just a bank of memories that our brain has built up over time, assessing fear and keeping us in a safe place. Now that might serve a very, very valuable function in terms of physically keeping you alive, stopping you from touching something hot or running away from someone who's, running after you with a knife or something like that. But, as I've said many times before, in modern day life, a lot of the fears and anxieties that we have are not really serving us and are just really keeping us from playing a much bigger part in our life, keeping us playing it small. And so, the subconscious mind is really just constantly creating a reality for us in which we're kind of living in fear. Even though it might be small things like maybe you don't really want to get up and talk in front of people at work or something like that. Maybe you're wanting to start a YouTube channel like me, but you're scared of talking on camera, putting things out there, scared of being judged. That's not going to kill you, right? But still, we can sit there, we can procrastinate, we can feel kind of scared. Now, what actually happens first when you're told maybe that you've got to do something that makes you feel uncomfortable? Is it the thoughts that come first, or is it that feeling? Maybe it's a feeling in your stomach, or a tightness across the chest, or whatever that is for you, depending on whatever situation that you're being put in. I mean, let me give you an example. For instance, when I was about 5 or 6, it was my birthday. I'd been given a new football strip, the shorts, the socks, the shirt, everything. Went down to the park with my brother and some friends, and we're playing football, and it's quite a big field, and then at the back of the field is this big bank of grass going up at about a 45-degree angle, and around that are some houses and the backs of the gardens back onto this field. And there was this dog it's like a greyhound sort of dog. It's like a really dark colour with sort of gold speckles. Incredibly fast, incredibly muscular dog. Saw it appear at the top of this bank of the field, and it just started to bomb down towards us. I've never ever seen anything so fast in my life. And I had the ball at the time. The dog came down. It started messing around with the ball, and then it jumped on me, pinned me down. Now, in my mind, even to this day, I see the dog as trying to kill me. I certainly did at that time. It was trying to bite me. It ripped all of the new football kit that I had. I had blood pouring down me. I had quite a few scratches all down my front. But it was an absolutely horrific attack, and I really don't think that the dog really attacked me. Not viciously, but in my mind, it was like a vicious attack, if you know what I mean. At the time. I got up, I ran all the way home, I didn't even look back. Everyone had left me, actually, by the way, even my brother. But yeah, and I got back home and I was just incredibly upset, quite hurt, a lot of blood on me, and all my football kit was ripped, and it was a horrible day. But the point is here that for the rest of my life, I'm good these days, but for a lot of my life, whenever I would see a dog, I would immediately get this, like a feeling in my stomach of dread, and then a tightness in my chest, and actually like an inward take of breath. It was a complete and utter physical reaction, which would then lead to really, really bad thoughts, and then increasing that feeling and emotion, maybe running away, maybe shouting, all sorts of things. But it all came from a memory which then invoked some kind of feeling that was always attached with me. And this interaction of the subconscious and my body in this particular situation, every time I saw a dog would just bring up this kind of reaction over and over and over again for sort of, something like 20 or 30 years. Now, I was actually bitten by one dog, I think, when I was probably about 19 or 20, something like that. But apart from that, I've never had any other bad experience with a dog. Yet all of the time, I was creating this reality for me of fear when there was absolutely no need for that whatsoever. And also actually going back to that park to play football, and actually it was probably 10 years ago, maybe in my mid-30s, I actually went back to that park, but I again actually had a bit of a feeling, from the memory, it invoked it. So again, there's just deep-seated things that are sat in our subconscious which are interacting first with our body. We really, really do feel that. So it's very important to notice that distinction, that it's really the feeling that comes first, because actually there's some good evidence to suggest that when something fires in our brain, there is a period of up to about 7 seconds before we're even consciously aware of that, and it's that feeling that's invoked, that conversation, that communication between the body and the mind, I find so intriguing. So there are really two ways that we can kind of look at this. The first is we can look at maybe replacing some of those feelings with better feelings, if you like. I can discuss that with a particular example in a moment. So almost like retraining the body and the mind to not have maybe such a fearful response to something, but actually a more positive response through some kind of practice, through some kind of positive experience that we can have with something. Or the second is actually to, completely and utterly sit down, meditate, and really start to look at what those feelings are that come up when we think about a certain situation, and to just observe that feeling as just a feeling, to not name it, and to understand that it will come and it will go, and we can release that as well. And to understand that we really aren't that feeling, that isn't who we are, we're just observing it. So in the first instance, what I say that, so, kind of maybe replacing a certain feeling with something else. I mean, think about maybe a time where you had to do something like, wow, I'm going to take off my hat because I'm starting to sweat now. It's starting to heat up. Off come the clothes. Yes, where was I? So replacing a feeling. I mean, think about the last time let's say you had to get up and talk in front of a group of people. Maybe you've had difficulty with that in your life. Even the best of us, I think, can get a little bit nervous in terms of getting up and talking in front of people. Well, think about the last time maybe you had to do that. You were really, really nervous, but then by the end of it, you got through that. How do you actually feel at the end of that? Did you feel good? Most of us actually do feel good. I mean, a lot of us would say maybe it's a sense of relief. Maybe it is a little bit after that. That adrenaline has come and gone. We do feel that sort of like that feel of release. But also, if we've had a good feeling at the end of that, we can start to invoke new feelings associated with the memories that we've had of that. So to give you an example, of myself, when I was in my mid-20s, I was a PhD student, so I was a cancer research scientist, and I was doing my PhD work in London. I was about 25, something like that, 1 or 2 years into my PhD, and my professor was going to present my work and some other work from the lab at an international meeting. It was in, where was it? It was in the north of France, in Lille, I think it was. Anyway, I was going to go along, but just to watch, she was going to present. It was, there was going to be about 300-400 people there. Anyway, about 2 weeks before, my professor said, "Oh well, I've got some other commitments. So Robert, can you go and present the work?" And I was absolutely mortified. I'd got up and spoke in front of my sort of lab group before, like 10, 20 people, something like that, people that I knew, but to get up in front of 300 or 400 people, top scientists in that research field, was so daunting. I cannot tell you. It's still one of the most scary moments of my life. I'll put it up there in the top 5 scariest moments in my life. And so I went over to France, and it was a 2 or 3 day conference. I was there the first day at the conference. It was huge. It was in like a big theatre. There were about 300 or 400 people there. And when people had done their presentations, the kind of questions that were getting asked were just so intense. Anyone knows, or has worked in the academic field, there's a lot of big egos in there, and people are always trying to outdo each other with big questions and things like that. And the night before my presentation, I did not sleep. I didn't sleep. I didn't even lie down. I just paced around. I couldn't even sit down. I paced around the room, went through my presentation, went through the slides over and over and over and over again. And the amount of adrenaline that went through me that night was just insane. And the next day, I did the talk, and the thing that I feared the most actually wasn't the presentation, it was the questions after. And so we had, I think it was 30 minutes or something like that for a presentation, 10 minutes for questions. Well, I went through the presentation and it went absolutely like a dream. Why wouldn't it if I'd been through it a million times in my head? But what actually happened was I actually gone over, and I'd done about 40 minutes instead of the 30 minutes, so I didn't even have any time for questions, which was a real blessing. So I didn't even really have to face that. But I think if I had, I would have handled it fine, because the way that the presentation went, I felt really confident at the end of that. But the point here is that any time that I've had to get up and speak in front of quite a lot of people, from that point, has been so much easier for me. Now you might say, well, yes, you've had the practice, but what actually is practice? If you're doing something and you've got you've got into a better position after doing that. You've progressed and got yourself into a better state of mind from doing something once or many times. What you're really doing there is you're putting some memory there into your subconscious, and you're associating that with a different kind of feeling that you had previous to it. So that feeling of real fear for me before, which was just insane. The amount of adrenaline that went through my body was just ridiculous. Now, actually, what day are we on now? It's Tuesday. On Saturday, it was quite late at night. I was walking through the city centre here in Sheffield, and someone jumped out on me with a knife and chased me down the street, saying that they were going to kill me. And I ran away and luckily got into a taxi. Now, that level of adrenaline that I felt, I was nearly sick when I got in the taxi. That was the same level of adrenaline and almost the same kind of sickness that I felt, 20 years ago when I was in my hotel room in the north of France. And all I had to do was get up and talk in front of 300 people about a subject that no one knew better than me, because it was my work. It's quite incredible. It's quite incredible the kind of feelings and fear that we put ourselves through. But now, for me, the feeling that I get when I know that I've got to get up and speak in front of quite a lot of people, I do get a feeling. But that feeling is more a feeling now of there's an anticipation and an excitement about it. I don't quite know what's going to happen. Maybe something could go a little bit wrong, but I feel a little bit more excited about that because I actually know what comes at the end of that. There's going to be a feeling of a little bit of relief, but also of accomplishment as well. So hopefully I've talked a little bit there about the ridiculousness of some of the fears and feelings that we put ourselves through, but also a way by actually leaning into some of these fears can actually result in us being able to reprogram our thoughts, our feelings, basically our whole makeup to generate a completely new reality for us. Because leaning into these fears that we might have, these stupid little fears about putting out a YouTube channel, about getting up and talking in front of people, it's we need to have a new relationship with that. Because as human beings, what are we here for? Are we here to be confined and constricted into a little box? Well, no, we're not. We might think we are because we always want to retract into that position, but we're expansive beings. We want to expand. And when we expand to a new level, we then need to lean into a new level of fear and push on and break through to the next level. That's really, really gives us a true sense of purpose in life, I think. So as I said, the second thing that we can do is we can sit in a meditation and really actually embrace these feelings that we have maybe around a particular thought or event or person or thing that you've got to do in your life, whatever it is. If you sit in a quiet meditation for, let's say, 10, 15 minutes and just, what is that? What's that physical feeling that's attached to a particular fear that you may have? What is that? Where is it? And sit and then just start to feel that. And then just realize that, don't make it mean anything. Don't make it mean anything. Don't label it. And just sit with it and feel it. What is it? It's nothing. It's something that you've created. But because you've created it, that means that also you can uncreate it. Just sit with the feeling. And if any thoughts are coming up, just say, okay, thank you. And just watch them go by. And just continue to sit with this feeling. Not making it mean anything. Not making it come, not making it go away. Just sitting with it. and understand that it isn't you. It isn't you. You're just observing it. And again, any thoughts are coming, you're letting them go away. Don't resist the feeling. Whatever you resist, it will persist. Believe me, I've done it for 25 years. So again, just keep sitting with that and do this for 10, 15 minutes. And some certain situations that I've certain kind of fears of certain situations that I've sat with, and the kind of feelings that have come up with me when I've sat with them, I've actually been able to just completely let them go. I've felt them become so intense that they consume me, almost feel like I'm in incredible pain, to the point when they can just go like a puff of smoke. But by doing it, by actually going head on into these feelings, sitting with them, not pushing them away, is the real key to actually getting rid of them. That's certainly been my experience from years of problems of depression, anxiety, alcoholism, which I'm still deal with on a daily basis, trying to keep myself well. So I'll leave it at that for today. Hopefully you've enjoyed that. Hopefully you've got something out of that. I encourage you to really sit and do a good meditation on a particular fear and feelings around that for 10 or 15 minutes, and see how that works out for you. I'd be interested to know what your thoughts on that are. If you've liked this video, please click the like button below. If you want to see more content like this, then please hit the subscribe button, and I'll catch you in the next video. Take care. Bye now.